So, in this video, let's talk about what is liberation, why does it matter, and how do we go in the direction of attaining it, right? And what part mindfulness or meditation plays in this. So, one way of understanding liberation or bondage is that a natural state, right? A natural state is that there are certain experiences that we are experiencing externally, and then we have certain times when we are not doing something, right? And challenge is that what happens is, like, when we are not doing something, it is probably easier to understand this way. When I'm not doing something, it's not that I am having an experience of nothingness, right? What I'm having is a lot of noise inside my head, right? My mind is just keep coming up with different random thoughts, right? And I mean, we take it as something which is kind of normal, right? But this is not normal, right? You're not doing something, you're just sitting on your own, and your mind is going crazy inside, right? So, what is going on there? So, it is as simple as I today I'm having this experience, that experience, and or something inside ourself is creating a system or creating accumulation that those experiences are not passing through ourselves so easily, right? They're getting stuck, and that stuck experiences keep creating certain thoughts and emotions, right? In fact, we don't really experience external events so normally as well, right? We hardly experience anything actually. It becomes so bad that basically what we are experiencing is our mind, right? We are experiencing this constant thoughts and emotion. There's somebody you're going to meet. How much of meeting you are meeting, right? What is happening is you just keep thinking about what this person think about me, what I should say, what I should not say, or like 100 different thoughts, right? There's hardly any real experiences we are having. And that is what the bondage is, this internal constant noise that we are going through, right? And liberation is getting free out of it, right? But before we get into like how do we get liberation, let's a little bit understand better like how does this whole process is happening actually. So it's as simple as that I am having an experiences externally, right? Not even any intense experience, something relatively general, right? I go to some place and I'm talking to somebody, that person praised me, or that person rejected me, or that person didn't even see me, right? That experience creates some emotions inside myself. And I'm talking here is like very biological emotions. I'm not talking about like the mental, craving and all that. But if somebody praise you, even a little child feels something nice inside themselves, right? It's like their heart opens and it's a nice feeling, right? What happened is that in that first degree emotional feeling that we get out of when somebody praises, a part of mind get attached to that, right? And it creates what is generally referred as a samskara, an impression, right? Because somebody praised it, it was a nice emotion, it should have been just passed through, it was just very temporary emotion, right? But it didn't pass through, something got stuck, and that something is called samskara in this impression. In this sense, the stronger the emotion is, the stronger the samskara, right? And it just gets stuck inside ourselves. Now when we just sitting on our own, mind start generating thoughts. It's not the mind, that samskara start generating thoughts, right? Because it hasn't gone through us, it just got stuck and now it's trying to get out, right? So it generates some kind of scenario, like if this, I mean, just generate some fantasy, right, around how people should praise me, right? You are there's a podium and you're giving, like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it could have come up with something that actually create a similar experience internally, so that you can experience that feeling again, and you get stuck and then you keep getting attached to it. What that samskara is trying to do is trying to get out of you, right? It's trying to finish itself, right? The experience is trying to get finished itself, but we didn't let it, or at least a part of our mind doesn't let it. It just keeps, you know, pushing it up, pushing it down, right? And this is just very minute experience, but there is just so many experience, and a lot of us even have so many very intense experience, right? Traumas, right? And all of this get stuck inside ourselves in the form of samskara, like a real subtle material almost, right? Which is stuck inside ourselves, right? What makes things really worse is we are just not aware about any of this. It's just that we are not feeling good, right? And the mind is generating, and we are also not able to separate ourselves from this, right? We actually believe this is all there is, this is what we are, right? One thing is we are not even aware anything internally going on, right? And then we are just experiencing feeling something not so comfortable. When we are sitting on our own, we are just not feeling, and we need something to, watch, maybe watch something so we don't feel the way we are feeling. But we have just no, we don't have a depth of awareness, we don't have a mindfulness that what is going on inside ourselves, right? We just don't feel good, we do something. This whole thing is bondage. Actually, these samskaras are the bondage, right? Experience happened, got stuck inside ourselves because we resisted it, or we try to, uh, get attached to it, and that experience got stuck inside ourselves is actually a bondage because it's keep doing its thing circularly, right? It doesn't get out, it just keep, and it's keep building up things after things after things after things, right? And what happens in this whole process is our baseline for a child, if you notice, their baseline is generally happy, or like, they're doing whatever they're doing. If they're feeling hungry, they're crying. If they're playing, they very much live in the present moment because they haven't done this samskara stuff, they haven't done this attachment and aversion, at least early on, right? But at some point, once we start doing this thing, right, start collecting all these, um, start not letting things pass through us, we start making our baseline default state very painful, right? Our default state is basically all these thousands and thousands of samskaras trying to get out of us in the form of thoughts, emotions, craving, and all these things, right? And this whole experience is what is bondage is, right? Because we are no longer in the present moment, we are no longer experience anything, we are just stuck in this whole noise inside ourselves, right? So how does the meditation help in this, and how do we go about it, liberating ourselves from all this thing, right? So the meditation fundamentally gives us the mindfulness, right? If you're practicing something like Vipassana, and if you're doing anything like a long retreat or whatever, because you're closed, your eyes are closed, and you're sitting and you're not doing anything, you slowly become aware about this whole internal thing that is going on, right? And you become basically mindful about this whole, when I'm not doing something, this is all thing going on inside myself, right? When there's an experience happen, I'm trying to resist it, creating samskara, the samskara is trying to come out now, right? So this is what you become fully mindful about, right? And the more meditation experience you have, the more mindfulness you can have. Also the depth of the mindfulness, right? How much deeply you can see all this process, right? So meditation is critical. Without meditation, you don't even stand a chance to work on any of this. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse, and that's pretty much all there is, right? If you don't have mindfulness, how are you going to work on any of this if you can't even see it, right? So the mindfulness is critical, or meditation is critical to cultivate this sort of mindfulness to see this. But mindfulness in alone is not enough also, right? At some level, yes, it does kind of help to you. Also, like a side effect of mindfulness is as well that you start identifying yourself from all this with all this, right? If you don't have a mindfulness, if you don't have this depth of awareness, you are going to identify with all this thing as this is what I am, right? But it gives you also like visibility that this is all going on inside yourself, but it also gives you a sense of separation from all this, right? And that separation gives a lot of relief actually. This disidentification, like, okay, I can see it, but this is not what I am, right? But mindfulness alone is not enough, right? What happen is, because the process still goes on, right? Still there's experience, there's still resistance, attachment is still, uh, samskaras are being created, and those samskaras trying to get released, and we try to suppress it again, and all these things still continues, right? We need to apply that mindfulness to actually liberate ourselves. What is happening is samskaras cannot stay inside yourself. They are gonna keep coming out, right? They're going to keep coming out. And in general, what we do is, because it's all very uncomfortable, we just try to distract ourselves from watching some movie or something, right? But the process of liberation is basically, you need to sit through all the different experiences. So when something is happening externally, maybe we don't start with like extreme, intense experiences, but like something like, somebody's praising us or things like these, is something where we can start becoming mindful, right? And start learning to experience those experiences without really, seeing a lot of value in that, right? Without really so much attached to those experiences, right? And when we are sitting, when we are not doing something, you are going to see like something from inside you start keep coming out, and you are learning to release that samskaras, right? And the way we release this samskara, or the way we learn to experience something without getting attached to it, is basically being present there, right? And learning to stay present when the experience is happening. If you're not present, and then this is just like automatic process, you can't do anything about it. But just learning to stay present and experience that experience. And when you are not doing something, and whatever is coming inside from your uh, collection, learning to experience that and learning to release that, right? The challenge here is, it's almost, so right now the situation is that our default state is very uncomfortable, but we have these cravings that we satisfy, maybe in the form of watching a movie or eating a food or whatever, that gives us a sense of happiness, right? But if you want to do something like liberation, right? If you want to work, if you want to sit through these cravings and all these things, this is not a particularly happy experience. And our default state itself is not happy. On top of it, the thing that we do to, kind of distract ourselves from that unhappiness is also not, if we are not doing it. And that experience of not doing it becomes another, unhappy experience. This is not a pleasant thing to do, right? This is like reasonably disturbing experience to go through this thing, right? At least till a certain period of time. But what happens as a effect, right? The more you do it, the more you practice releasing your old samskaras instead of attaching to it, more you experience external experience without getting attached to it, more your baseline happiness start to increase, right? And then, I mean, of course, there is this period, right? It's almost like somebody who's addicted to um, alcohol or something. If you're going to leave the alcohol, you need to be prepared, right? That there is going to be period of time where you're not going to feel comfortable. The urges and impulses are going to come, and you're going to have to sit through it, and it's just not going to be a pleasant experience. But after a certain period of time, you become free of it, you become liberated from it, right? The same thing goes on inside ourselves, working on this stuff, right? You have to expect there's going to be a period of time where you have to voluntarily suffer more, right? Or voluntarily go through this more disturbing process of releasing all these samskaras, or becoming comfortable with all these cravings and urges and impulses, but not really engaging in them. But the more you do it, the more you become free of it. The more the mind quiet downs, the more you become empty, right? These things keeps coming out, and the more you start living in the regular life, engaging in the regular life, right? And that's like a yardstick, basically, how much you are living in the present moment, as a clear yardstick to see like how much liberated you actually are, right? So that is the process, right? And the more we practice this thing and the more we willingly suffer in the form of releasing these samskaras or stuck impressions, the more free we become, the more empty the mind becomes, the more liberated we becomes. And then we also start to experience the natural happiness and satisfaction, right? And that is, you would notice, like, that is the nature of the mind, the nature of unconditioned mind, the nature of, a mind which hasn't, has stored so many stuff inside itself, right? It's naturally very pleasant instrument, right? But also you start to, in that piece, right, you start to experience what you are, right? Because right now we are identifying with the ego, mind, emotions, and all these thing, and the flow of them is so fast that we are actually not really seeing what exactly we are. So we start to like experience first of all the empty mind or reasonably empty mind, and we also start to see and we start to understand all these scriptures as well, right? What they're talking about the self and the qualities of self and what you are, what you are not, and all these things. It all start to make sense to the point where you start to s- crave for external experiences for happiness, right? Your relationship with external life becomes very different, right? It becomes more like, it becomes very enjoyable, right? It becomes a lot more enjoyable and a lot more from the, you engage in the life in a lot more from the place of giving instead of taking, right? So that is one way of seeing the liberation, right? And probably the more you can stay in the present moment without wanting this and that from this moment, the more liberated you are actually getting, right? And mindfulness and meditation is extremely critical until you develop enough mindfulness, right? And once you have enough mindfulness, using everyday life is probably the right practice to liberate yourself as much as you can, right?